Gruesome Magazine.
Hello once again, I'm Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, Crystal Cleveland, my co-host Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, I'm just diving ahead, folks. Dave Dreher, Crystal G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are reviewing Good Madam, streaming on SHUDDER. Oh my! Let's get into this. Let me introduce my crew here, starting off with Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm good.
He's Good Madam. All right, also joining this week is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl. How you doing?
Woo! It's definitely not a hot tub party on this one.
no hot tub parties. No, it's a little more dour. All right, also joining us, award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Mohr.
What's up? I just have this need to brush my teeth really hard right now. I don't know why.
Oh, ow.
But you have to see the film to understand.
And then maybe not.
Scrub the floor.
Maybe not.
Or maybe not. Oh.
Or go watch Evil Dead 2 if you see the film.
What? There's something I missed in that. There's something I missed in that. All right, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to give you our first impressions. The hands. Now I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Did you watch the movie?
I did.
Okay. Just making sure.
All right. We are going to give our first impressions. That will be spoiler free. Then we'll dive into discussions. We'll get into spoilers because we kind of have to. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts. Our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And of course, if you do, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, share with a friend. It'll do wonders. And of course, once you watch it on SHUDDER, and we know you will, leave some comments down below. All right, let's dive into the card. Good Madam, streaming on SHUDDER beginning July 14th, 2022. Original title is Mlungu, or something along that line. I have a feeling that it's mispronounced quite a bit, but you know, hey. Written and directed by Jenna Kato Bass, co-written by Babawa Bartman, and the cast. Actually, the entire cast gets credited for writing this film. I don't know how or why that happens.
Fun.
I'm going to save everybody's ears and not
probably a good idea.
Name the cast, but there they are, and I apologize each and every one of you in advance. Synopsis is an eerie psychological thriller about Tsidi, who is forced to move in with her estranged mother, a live-in domestic worker, caring obsessively for her catatonic white madam in the wealthy Cape Town suburbs. But as Tsidi tries to heal her family, a spectre of madam begins to stir.
Whose thumb is that on that? Who has a thumb like that? I mean, did you see that thumb? What kind of thumb? I mean, I bet they could hitchhike really well. Like, people would see that thing. Like, that is a thumb. I'm just saying. Sorry.
What is a thumb? Makes me eerily uncomfortable.
All right.
Except for the loss of her husband, you know what I mean?
Oh no! Stop. Let's get into our final. Thoughts. Let's just jump right to the end. No, let's give our first impressions. Jeff Mohr, you're up first. What's your first impression of Good Madam streaming on SHUDDER?
I may be alone in this, but I enjoyed this. It seems like it's a. Oh wait, that would be a spoiler. So, we get this woman who is, I don't know, for one reason or another, separated from her husband, and she used to live in her grandmother's house, and her grandmother dies, and the family's fighting over the house, and she just says screw it, leaves, and goes to live with her mom, who is a domestic for this kind of rich white couple in South Africa, and she's not a happy person. But I think I'm trying to think of how to say this without giving anything away. But as the movie goes on, I like the changing relationships and the changing personalities, and trying to understand. I don't think I got it all because I didn't know that much about the culture, and there's some spiritual mythology or religion in there that is explained briefly, but not thoroughly. There's not much exposition, so you got to kind of figure that out. But I sort of enjoyed this journey.
Yeah, something kind of akin to what voodoo in Louisiana would be here in the South and in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll wait till spoilers to say it.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of a couple other movies in terms of what they were going for.
Christopher G. Mohr, what's your first impression of Good Madam?
This film is slower than a slow burn.
No,
you know what I mean, it's more of a slow crawl, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, but you do go into these lives of these different people, and so for a while they were thinking, well, is there even like a horror element to it, you know, because it's more of a family type drama and issues with that. And I kept getting annoyed with the main character.
Yes,
because
God,
she just seemed like she was such a
entitled,
just very self-centered or something. It's like it's all about me. It's what I want to do, or whatever, and which in some ways almost ties into this other person that rules over people's lives. So it's got a lot of different elements that they sprinkle throughout, and then they kind of explain it a little bit more, but still you're kind of like, okay, I'm kind of unsure what's happening. But yeah, I mean, it's got some interesting elements. I think it's such a slow burn that it kind of loses the momentum of it, because it's such a slow process of getting from A to Z. But then it has a kind of horror elements, but that stuff doesn't hit to like the last like fourth of the film. But yeah, I found it to be interesting. I mean, it definitely, parts of it are very dramatic. It definitely has those kind of elements that even if because it's not based in America, you could still sort of relate to the squabbling you have between family members, and when a parent's very absent, it's more about their work and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I found some of it to be interesting. I don't think it works 100%, but I think it still has enough interesting things to where I wanted to see where it was going to end. But I wasn't wowed. It was just it's very slow and prodding in its pace, and I think if you don't like films that are very slow in that kind of respect, you're not going to like this film. But overall, it's interesting. It has interesting aspects.
Overall, it's interesting. All right, Crystal, your first impression of Good Madam.
Okay, so I don't understand what the filmmakers were trying to do with this movie. I found the lead character to be quite deplorable, honestly. Here she is, like, the grandmother passes away. It's not just her grandmother, it's everyone's grandmother, and she decides she wants to, demolish some stuff in the house or change things, and they're like, excuse me, wait, and she acts like she should be entitled, she should be able to do whatever she wants to do. She goes to stay with her mother, who it's not even her mother's home, and continues the trend of wanting to do and use whatever it is in the house. It's just, she's very disrespectful. And I just felt like, well, she's lazy, because why doesn't she have a job? I just don't get it. I don't understand if they were trying to make her likable. I guess toward the end I kind of liked her, but I mainly liked her because of the mother. I found it really uncomfortable, because I feel like they put all of these racist themes, and it's actually really sad. And what's at the core of the story, I really enjoyed. But I feel like they put this like character that you don't want to root for at the center of it, and that's depressing to me. I wish they had made her more likable and not such an entitled character. I mean, she basically said, "Is this my way or the highway?" Even with the father of her child and everything, it's just very strange. I don't understand where she got off thinking she could just do whatever she wanted to do. It's very odd, and I think that was poorly written from a perspective of making a likable character. I mean, so. That was rough for me. I would like to say there's something lost in translation, but I think it's kind of obvious that even the mother is like, hello, what are you doing? Don't do this. I just don't like people who, like, if I went to go live with my parents right now, I would respect their wishes and respect what they told me. And that's the way that it is. So when I see someone who's not like that, I just find it odd and weird, and I have no sympathy for them. And quite frankly, if I was the mom, I would have kicked her out. Yeah, but so that kind of messed with the movie for me. Like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but I mean, I do know of this happening in the past, what they're talking about and what they're doing, and that sort of stuff. And had they focused on that, I think the story would have been much more compelling. And had they made the lead character less of a spoiled brat, I think it would have been a lot more compelling. So, yeah.
Or at least redeemable,
that's how.
Right? Something.
Yeah.
Start off one way and because I don't know if what her arc actually ended up being. But yeah, so this movie is let's see, what is it? An 1 hour and 32 minutes. It's a long 1 hour and 32 minutes. It really asks a lot of you. It wants you to really dive in and pay attention. And not that you don't want to do that with films, but I mean you extra so, right? Because it's very thick, right? And what it's doing. There's a lot going on at all times, but it's not necessarily engrossing, and it's not, it doesn't really, it didn't bring me into the story. It didn't invite me into the story. It was actually kind of off-putting, and the characters, it was like, I think you did. It was like, it's uncomfortable to watch these, and I don't enjoy watching a movie where I feel it purposely makes me uncomfortable unless there's a cause or reason for it, and I'm not sure if I even then, to be honest with you. So I had a hard time with this film. However, I did watch it. We had a little hiccup with our screeners, and so I watched it on a computer with headphones, and which really got me into the sound design. And the sound design actually carried a lot of the film for me, because there's bumps and thuds, and there's all these noises going on that keep happening throughout the storyline, and makes it a little bit more spooky toward the beginning when visual stuff isn't happening yet, and they're just hearing noises, because the noises were done really well, and the music tied with it was very creepy and scary. Although I didn't know what was going along with it, and so there was a little bit of a disconnect. So this film, it's not it's well made. The cinematography is good. I think the actors are good. I think a lot of it's just, I just don't know what the story is trying to communicate fully. I mean, there's surface stuff, but I feel like there's a bigger message in here that totally went over my head because of lost in translation. I think that's a big part of it. So to me, a little, it didn't grab me.
Okay, so like this whole thing about the Egyptian thing that they're bringing in, where the Egyptian royalty, they buried their servants with them. Obviously, that's, since we're in spoilers, I hope you watch the movie. We're in spoilers. Okay, but that's obviously what they're doing here, which I loved. I loved this concept. It's horrible. It's like, that's scary. It's really depressing the way the mother handled that. I really loved like this whole, I loved that aspect of the story. It just sucks that the main character ruined it for me. Ruined it.
So
ruined it. Like,
All right, so trying to look at it. So in spoilers, to me, that is what it's about. This, this is no longer apartheid, but it's still in this particular location where her mother lives, and in that house, it's still apartheid. I mean, she's like considered part of the family and isn't really. It's like this is more of her family than her own child. So in Tsidi's defense, the kind of the lead character, her mother didn't have time for her because it was more important to her to serve the family. And so she's raised by her grandmother. She's the only one that lives in her grandmother's house with her. And so then when the grandmother dies, all of a sudden, all the relatives that didn't have a whole lot to do with her before all show up and want to share the house and come live in it and decide what can be done with it and everything. So not to say that they don't have that right, but from her point of view, it's like, this is her house. This is where she grew up, who was basically her mom, has died, and they're just not having it. And she's going to end up having to be the, like the maid for these people that are living in the house. And so she's kind of lost everything. And she leaves to go be with her mom, regardless of how desperate that is, because she knows she's going to be out of place. And so then once we get to her house, I feel like she's lost. She's got no real identity or who cares about her anymore. And I'm not saying it's justified. It's more of an explanation. But now the rest of it is this whole concept of the devotion, sort of the master-servant relationship. And obviously this family is still following that tradition because they have this little graveyard on their property. And it's all these different servants. And then we start to get hints of something else going on in the house. The only one left living in the house of the owner's family is this woman, and she's dying. She's about to die. So I kind of feel like it's sort of the story of the mother sort of at some point comes to terms with the way that she has been. Although, she does point out to her daughter, you don't get it, because this woman's dying, but if we send her off to a nursing home, what's going to happen to us? We got nothing.
Well,
so
okay.
Then you start to,
yeah.
And then you get this, you mix in some of this supernatural stuff that may or may not be real. So I just felt like it was a mix of that whole culture and whatever that religion or mythology is, that she reads a little bit from the book, and that kind of leads her in a way. Plus, so anyway, the stuff that happens up in that bedroom is just crazy whack job stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, but I don't know about you guys. For a while there, I was like, well, maybe the woman's not even real.
That's what I was thinking for a long
time.
time.
I never questioned that for some reason.
For a good part of it, I thought she was just trying to make it seem like the woman was alive or whatever.
Mavis has actually had multiple personalities or something, right?
Or something.
The owner. Yeah, the Diane.
Because there's like one point where like, do you hear her? She's calling or whatever. But then when we get to the Egyptian stuff, it becomes kind of interesting. But I kind of wish it feels like so. It happens kind of fast once we get the information to where it's like I feel like it should have been a little bit scattered throughout the film as opposed to towards the end. And then, I mean, it's an interesting concept, and it's even more interesting this white woman's basically appropriating
I know
Egyptian culture, because she's got all these
weird.
different, all these different things, African American culture and Egyptian. She's got that Egyptian thing on the wall, so I figured something had something to do with that, because even her dog, supposedly the Egyptians, like in their tombs, they'd be buried with their their cats or whatever, their animals. So but yeah, it got more interesting, but then it just it almost felt like, to me, it felt like, oh, let's take a few things from the Evil Dead films. Let's like have a severed hand. Let's have someone throw up on someone, like Drive Me to Hell. So for a little bit of Sam Raimi influences, but not on the level that Sam Raimi would be, because it's played seriously. But yeah, it has a little bit of the Get Out, I guess, a little bit. When it
I
comes
felt
to
that
just,
too.
the racial aspects of it, where you have like a domineering white person or whatever who's sort of somehow having control over the black people in their life, and so
Well, there's lots of movies about, there's some supernatural thing going on where the old person is going to take over the young person's body or whatever, to stay alive. But
yeah, but kind of to me it was like Burnt Offerings. I don't know if you guys remember that film.
yeah,
Kind of a Burnt Offerings kind of feel, or
yeah.
And that part I got, but I still I understand, Jeff, what you're saying about the lead character. Just unacceptable to me, because let's put it this way: my brothers and sisters, all my siblings, like, had hardly seen my mom or anything like that. Still, my mom passes away. I don't expect that I should own that house, that I should get everything. I just don't understand her entitlement. I don't understand where she feels like someone should be taking care of her, or it's weird. To me, that's what's odd about her character. I feel like I would have had a lot more compassion for her had she not been like, well, I've been living here, so this is what's going to happen. It's like, hold on. Maybe that's not what's going to happen.
I guess I saw it more as a desperation. Like, it's almost like her mother, who, if that woman dies and everybody knows it, they're out. And so now she was in that same situation. Her grandmother dies, and now she's fighting for this place to stay, and now she's out. So, well,
she left. She didn't have to go.
Well, that's me. That's the most annoying part. You have a house that your family owns, and you could stay there even if other people have to stay there. Or you go to a house that you don't own, that your mom is a slave to the people that own the house. I don't know. To me, that just seemed like just
because she was being a baby. Yes.
Like, well, if I can't have the house for myself, I'm going to go over and stay with my mom. And then
if I can't do what I want,
she's not doing anything.
I saw it being a little bit both ways.
Really?
That the family wasn't really thinking about that it was a patriarchal society. And they were coming in and just going, who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish there was an arc. I don't think the character got an arc. I mean, there's something. I mean, she does sort of, but I don't know if.
Well,
I mean, she comes out the end
there
different.
Isn't an arc. There
is an arc.
But she's working at the end, right?
Is she though?
Well, when she goes out, the first time she takes her daughter down to pick up a ride down at the end of the drive outside the gate, she's just wearing like pajamas and a robe. And later on, her mom tells her, you can't do that. You can't do that. And so at the end of the movie, when she does that, she's wearing like a pink maid's outfit, which is just sort of like a tearaway fake costume.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think she's
walking
working
up the driveway with her daughter. She just pulls
She just wanted to make it look. She wanted to look more presentable. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
her character is so weird.
They're taking over the house. I mean, her mom lied.
And I am okay with that.
Son.
Yeah.
And did you notice the sons who? Oh yeah, Mavis take care of everything. Mom's okay. And the sons who live in Australia, they got a little graveyard in their yard too.
Yeah, they're not coming back. Yeah, they got the I gotcha. Yeah, because when he leaves the table, somebody comes over right away. Yeah, they're not going back to South Africa anytime soon, are they? They're never going to know. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. I believe, Jeff, you are up first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, the more we talk about this, the more I kind of like it. Well, I think there's actually a fair amount going on. There's family dynamics. There's racial dynamics. There's some kind of religion, spiritual mythology thing going on, and the family dynamics are all over the place. And so I have no idea, it's hard for me to imagine what it would be like in that situation in South Africa. So I Anyway, I enjoyed it. I'm going to say I'm giving this a 3.75.
Nice.
And because I think somebody else mentioned it, acting, cinematography, the sound. I like the sound too. I got that. See, I watch these movies at night, and I watch them on the big screen TV, but I got to use my headphones because my wife doesn't like hearing screams through the
Yeah.
Doesn't like hearing all the bloody murder. Huh?
She's in bed, so so I'm still getting the sound design. So anyway, 3.75, and you're gonna think it's weird, but I'm gonna pick the scene with the family at her grandmother's house because I felt a lot of anxiety out of this. They're celebrating her grandma's wife. She's sitting there, she's smiling, and then all of it just kind of seemed like people were attacking her. What were you doing adding that room on the house? Well, and we don't know. Did she do that after she died? That would have been pretty damn fast, So I didn't, some of that stuff isn't totally explained. And then she just starts getting it from every direction. Well, this guy's going to move in and you're not going to do this. And they've all decided this without having any discussion with her whatsoever. I thought that was a really good scene that helped explain her, some of her mental state. Yeah, she wasn't very likable. She was a terrible mother while she was at the master's house, I guess.
I hate that.
But anyway,
I
enjoyed it. I like stuff like this because I feel like I was asked to try to understand and question what that culture and society was like.
I can see that. Yep, I agree with that. Christopher G. Mohr, sir, what was your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene?
Yeah, I mean, it's shot well. I think it's got some good performances in it. I think the main issue just has to do with the story and how it plays out, and it's a little too plotting. It's a little too stretched out. It's so slow, And normally I like a good slow burn, but this is so slow you're not burnt by it. it's too slow to burn you, so it's just more of a slow. If that makes any sense.
Slow?
A slow. It's not a slow burn. It's a slow. But it's still got some interesting elements. I think it's one of those things. By the end of it, you're like, well, I kind of wish it played out this way or that way. I don't feel like there's really no arc for the selfish mom character. The only arc I think is for her mother. Mm-hmm. There's an arc with that one.
Yes.
And that to me, that's more interesting than the spoil. She almost comes off very spoiled, even though, she lives a life that's not really spoiled, if you know what I mean. And you feel for her daughter because her daughter is still has energy and happiness and love, and her mom's just, doesn't seem to be doing anything for herself. So I was kind of irritated by her character, but I was still kind of interested to see where it was going to play out and the elements that are going to play into it. And I think once the harem elements come way too late. And I feel like information just comes out of we don't even know why she goes into the bedroom in that one part. And so things kind of irritated me story-wise. But overall, I thought it was interesting. I'll give it a 3.25. Okay. I think it's shot well. I think it's got some good sound design. It's got some good moments. I was thinking, I feel like maybe they've seen a Sam Raimi film or two because it's still Sam Raimi. So my favorite moment is probably the Evil Dead 2 hands moment.
Yes.
Even though it's more of a nightmare, I guess, or vision or delusion. I kind of like that scene. Because then I was like, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Now we're getting the creepy stuff. So yeah, that's probably my favorite scene.
Very good. I kind of knew you were taking on. Crystal, what is your final thoughts, your score, your favorite scene? Good madam.
So Christopher, I think that was actually, it was supposed to be like a prophecy, I think, for her. Because if you notice, the
Oh, I
person
know that.
whose hands
Yeah.
were going to be taken were hers, which I thought it was going to be Mavis, the mom, her mom, but that was interesting how they did like that switcheroo, which was kind of odd. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me how that worked, but this is a tough one for me. I do think it's shot well. I think it's acted very well. I think it's very slow, like Christopher mentioned. I see Jeff's point on the lead character, but as a woman, I just can't get behind a character like this. I can't support it. I can't say she's in the right. Like, my mom had 6 kids and no job, and she left her husband and got a job and supported them all and did it on her own in a crappy society that was still patriarchal. And it's not that patriarchal, because if it was, she would have been married to her husband and they would have been pushing her to get back with him. So I just don't see it. I don't get it. I don't understand her at all. Even at the end, I didn't like her, but I was glad she made it. I really love the mother. Ugh, that sweet, sad mom. I feel like she really got hit the hardest with all this. I mean, the whole thing with her son and everything. But I'll give this a 3. And my favorite scene. Ooh. Okay, my favorite scene is it was kind of creepy when Tsidi is walking up the stairs and you hear Mavis talking in Diane's room to her, and she's like laughing. She's like, "Thank you for letting her stay." She's like, "Ha ha ha." I think that was done really well, and it was creepy, and it really felt like she was genuinely having a conversation with someone that you couldn't hear. So, yep.
Yep.
That's
The
all.
film could have used more of that, actually. I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought a lot of the exposition could have been kind of provided that way, more so. I really wanted more out of this movie, and it fought me every step of the way for a lot of the reasons we're talking about, from the character to the story to not fully knowing, lost in translation is what we end up calling it. Just don't know enough about what the situation is to get some of the references, because I feel like there's elements in just where they're at and what's happening that are more frightening to audiences in South Africa than they are to me personally, which is unfair to the filmmakers, I suppose. But at the same time, I think the actors are extraordinary, and I was actually like fascinated by the sound design throughout the whole movie. That really grabbed me early and got me a little more tense when nothing was really happening early on. There's like one scene when she's standing in front of a window, and it focuses on her with the window in the background, and I'm just waiting for something to happen in that window, and the music's kind of suggesting something's going to happen, but nothing happened. I have to say I really enjoyed the last 20 minutes once it got into the goodies, right? When it goes back up to the room and you see you really see that Diane's there, the good madam, and you see her health, and when she falls out of the bed, you start feeling very weirded out about the entire situation. It takes a different, at that point it took like a whole different atmosphere to it. And I'd say once she got up there in that room that one time, she's like digging around, nosing around. That's when, which is another reason for you not liking her. Right?
I can't stand it. Yep.
So anyway, I'm babbling on. It just didn't work as a whole for me, and so it's hard for me to give it. I'd like to give it more, but I'm going to give it a 3 as well. And this conversation talked me up from less. we'll just say less. And my favorite scene, there's a couple things I actually could come up with, but the last scene in the bedroom, the whole thing but when she gets grabbed out of the shadows and pulled in, and it does this weird mud vomit on her face, and all these and all these weird things are happening, and then her mother is fighting with the I'm not really sure I know who he was.
Well, that guy,
her son.
That was her son. Didn't really talk about, but that's her son.
That's Maeve's son.
That's Mavis's son.
So
but she basically, that's Mavis's son and Tsidi's brother. Yes, from two different fathers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because they discuss
and he
they
gets
discuss
raised
it
by the white family as a
exactly
family
as an actual member of their family.
Yeah. And
yes,
that's why she calls him a coconut.
Yep.
So I got real confused by all that because I thought it was one thing, but then I heard other things, and I don't know what was happening, but I didn't.
So she killed her own son.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was.
But it was the right thing to do.
Tsidi,
yes.
But she wasn't going to do it at first. She was.
Well, she was kind of in part of that trance.
Yeah. She was putting it in. Yeah. So Yes, I wish I was able to get more invested in the first, 50, 60 minutes to get more out of that last 30 minutes. And I think that's what CRISPR is kind of what he's saying, right? The first bit of it just kind of plods along, and if it was a little bit more of a slope, I think it would have paid off better. Because it kind of went, "Warrior." Yeah,
they just throw stuff out there towards the end involving like the whole Egyptian angle, and it just fell out of the blue as opposed to something that should have been like
trickled through
early on.
And I wonder if it was there and it just wasn't. It's obvious to South African culture, but not to us. Like parts of the decoration and part of the way they were.
Well, they had it behind her bed. They had the hieroglyphs behind her pillow.
Well, yeah, there's all that artwork everywhere that they keep focusing, but I think that. I feel like that's more bad storytelling.
She finds a picture that has a spell on it, and that's
And then the thing that's in the book when she finds the book and she reads the little I am stuff, right, and then. There's interesting little.
Yeah, that part is. Why didn't they just make her? She could have been.
All right, there you go.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
That's our review of Good Madam. It's streaming now on Shudder. Check it out and let us know what you think of it in the comments down below. I'm sure there's a lot we missed, and you guys could fill in the blanks.
Probably,
and that would be awesome. So
yeah.
Christopher, Crystal, Jeff, thank you all so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Gruesome Magazine.